All right, welcome everybody. Day 27. This is going to be my personal favorite day of the Great Reset. And before I even dive into it, I have filmed a 4-hour documentary that I am in the process of editing because I actually really want to put forth this scientific theorem. But I love, Laurel, do you want to explain a little bit about your background in cellular biology?
I'm a clinical pathologist, so that's why I have the opportunity to explain this as simple as possible. And I'm also like a veterinarian, so that's my area of specialty. And we used to see cells in the microscope all the time. That was what we were doing all the time, whether it was blood or urine or poo or any fluid
Right.
from the body, we were checking that out in the microscope constantly.
You still have it because I want to I want to do some stuff.
I have
want
my
to
microscope. Yeah, I still have it.
Amazing, amazing. So it's so interesting because what happened to me is that I was working on What is Fascia blog. And then I started like really diving into this whole idea because I feel like it's generally accepted. And I have certainly said it for years and years that fascia is what surrounds the cells and feeds the cells. But then it's like fascia and the cells until I started to deep dive into the cells. So as I'm kind of trained as a fascia person to go look for words that mean fascia, some of the key ones are membrane, it's starting to make sense, sheath, all these things are fascia, right?
Yeah.
Then matrix, connective tissue. Okay, so I get down and I start looking inside the cell and I'm like, what is all the stuff inside the cell floating in? They're calling it matrix. They're calling it a cell membrane. So then that led me down this huge rabbit hole until I landed at the microtubules and the microfibules and all this, what we're told about the powerhouse of the cell. And it just dawned on me. I'm like, this has been misnamed too. This is, I'm going to call it fascia light tubes. Maybe we'll get a better word for it. That is what is going in the center of mitochondria, which thank goodness, I think most people know that that's the powerhouse of the body, or that whole ATP production and all of that. Guess what it's called? Mitochondrial matrix. You're going to tell me that's not fascia? Just like arachnoid matter in the meninges. So when I started looking at this, it led me down the hole of, well, how does fascia behave? And I started accidentally ending up in all this quantum physics with like quasi crystals and everything else, and I think it's probably kind of well known that some fascia people are going into like nature of reality and spiritualism and all of that. But I think at a very, very scientific level, if we could shift our understanding to fascia inside of fascia inside of fascia, then we could understand how cell to cell communication is actually happening. And can it happen simultaneously, like a split proton experiment? Okay. I know this is probably over a lot of people's heads, and that is totally okay because I wrote a 4-series blog with diagrams that makes it pretty easy to understand. But think about this from the standpoint of being a pathologist. How much does that change if you know that what's at the surface is the same thing as the smallest, pieces of our cells?
Yeah, and this makes me think, not because I've learned it in school as that. Of course, we have a different type of training, and we tend to see things by blocks. Like in Western medical school, you don't see the whole, you see the part. If we take something super simple, which is the fractals, well, I don't know if that's a super simple, but it is.
Oh no, I mean, I was just about to say the quantum nature and the fractal nature of fascia.
So everything that's big, it's little. So at the level we can observe it with our senses in the size and in the shape, it is exactly the same as tiny as it can be. So these are the like kind of saying fractals to give it like a name, but it's like that. If we think about our body, if our body was a cell, one single cell, then it will make sense. We will have a membrane that will be the skin. We will have the fascia would be the cellular matrix. Like, what are the points where you can join those things just by observation,
and then sadly, like, I'm so glad that you have that same understanding. I do too. And it's a game changer when we start talking about disease, because you can understand the nature of the cell by understanding the nature of fascia. and then put on y'all's seatbelts, because we can understand all of that, because we can understand the nature of the universe. And this led me down the craziest hole. I ended up on blogs. I don't know how I called somebody. It just happened. I ended up in Topanga Canyon talking to this guy who, his name's Clee Irwin, who he did a 2-3 hour documentary on Are We in a Simulation? But what was crazy is we had never had a conversation at all about anything inside the body. And what I was finding inside the body, he, has all these scientists that live in like a compound, up there studying it. And it's like, wow. And so they would give me terms, and then I would start looking for them in the human body. And every single thing completely aligned. And then I started watching, what's it called? Fantastic Fungi or Fungi.
Yeah.
So then my mind started going to like, what if the field is the fascia of the universe, right? And fascia is the field of our body. And then what if, like cliffhanger, what if it's the fascia of the earth is how we communicate? And then, you start seeing all these pictures, and it's like, I think people were onto it, Yeah. And then that's when I was like, ugh, we can't call it fascia anymore, because it's way more cooler. It's the whole thing. But I think that, I wanted to sort of wrap this challenge, giving people something else to ponder. That if we can connect to the universe, we can connect to the planet, and we can do it on the literal strings, light pipes of the human body, then like we could really tune into something. So that's kind of my drop the mic. Hopefully nobody shows up my door and wants to shoot me. I think we can really advance medicine if we can get a different understanding.
And what you just said, it reminds me, like for me at least, the most like tangible way of recognizing the fascia in outside of our bodies would be the mycelium. Like the fungi actually work like that connection, and whoever works with mushrooms at all levels, like from food to psychedelics and everything in between, understand the power of the mycelium in connection of all
I just got a chill in my body. We're on to it, people. And I have it all figured out, but it definitely is a much bigger picture. And, I certainly have had people report back to me how they use fascia blasting as a spiritual practice. They feel more connected, removing traumatic blockages and things like that. And it's like, of course you go looking for the theory. I just encourage all of you just to stay with it, start to put these puzzle pieces together and start to, form your own theories. It's not even like we have to believe something. We just have to be open to it. And there's a great video by this woman named Ronelle Wood. I'll put it on the email, where she talks about like, we don't have to know everything. We can just live our lives as if, right? So that's what I do. I encourage you to live as if your body is completely connected through one continuous thing, universe fashion.
That's a beautiful way. So act as if, or live as if you are healthy, that you are vibrant, that your cells are just rejoicing with abundant, vigorous health, and see what changes.
And as if you're truly like connected with nature. You're not living in nature. You are nature and part of nature.
There we go. Stick around tomorrow.
We are going to talk about how fascia blasting is for everyone.
What?
Elders, every gender that you identify with, all of it. Animals, absolutely.
If it's got a heartbeat,
and fascia blast the plants after today's lesson.
If it's got a heartbeat, it's fascia blasting is for you, for it.
Love it. See you guys there.
Tomorrow.